All right, so thank you so much for joining us on Lunch Out Loud Ottawa. This is going to be a special edition, something I've always wanted to do for 7 years of volunteering and going to Blues Festival. Is the day after listen to something where I got to listen to reviewers talk about the festival, because I usually go to almost every single day, and I'm very interested in what other people have to say. So I thought this would be an interesting forum. I think other people that were at the festival would love to hear what other people thought of it, if they only went there for 1 or 2 days, if they were upset about different aspects of the festival, if they really liked other aspects of the festival. So I thought it'd be very interesting. So with me today on Lunch Out Loud Ottawa, we have Eric Scarf and Matthias from Ottawa Showbox. I will always forever get your name wrong. Ellie Laberge from Eventful Capital. Hello. Ellie reviews around the city. And we have Aidan Helmer from the Ottawa Sun.
Hello.
Thank you all for coming. We're at the Daily Grind on Somerset. We shut off the air conditioning. It's going to reach 40 degrees. It's going to reach very hot temperatures in a bit.
Just like Bluesfest.
We're used to it.
Yeah. Just like the past couple days at Bluesfest, absolutely.
The daily grind.
Congratulations to everybody that stuck it out the entire Saturday and Sunday, where we were approaching 40 degrees. I know I was passing by the first aid tents several times throughout the day, and they were always busy. So thank you so much, the first aid people, for taking care of that. That's
certainly.
It's really hot.
Giving out free sunscreen.
Were they giving out free
You
sunscreen?
go to first aid to get free sunscreen, which I thought was very cool that they don't charge for sunscreen.
Excellent.
Really important.
Great tip.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a bit about the setup, what we liked about the festival this year, what we thought could be changed for next year. Hopefully they'll listen to us. We'll talk a bit about the food, the volunteers, the awesome volunteers that help out every single year. And then finally we'll go through some of the bands, some of the nights, our top fives at the festival, and things like that. So I guess first, the good about the festival this year. What did you think was better this year that they've done in the past? Maybe that they've done in the past, but you still think they'd do well. Aidan?
Well, I think one of the significant changes that they made was going from 5 outdoor stages in the past now to 4 outdoor stages. So where the Black Sheep stage was last year is now sort of an empty space with sort of a merchandise area. And the Black Sheep stage still exists. It's where the National Bank stage was at the north end of the War Museum. So the area that was just sort of at the west end, where there was a stage at the west end of the War Museum, is now just kind of an open space, mixed use, a few vendors, and just kind of a place to take a breather. I remember last year I saw Billy Bragg there, and he was playing, I believe, on the same night as Skrillex. And there's now a term in the music festival scene called getting Skrillexed, which means basically getting blown off the side stages by the thumping bass on the main stage. And last year Billy Bragg you could tell he was just annoyed. He's there with his acoustic guitar, and he's trying to compete with this huge sound that's coming from the main stage. So they've tried to get rid of a bit of that noise bleed from stage to stage, and doing that by actually taking one of the outdoor stages out, going to 4 stages, but keeping the programming pretty much the same as far as the music per minute ratio there. So still a lot of music, a lot of variety. People had maybe some tough choices as a result this year in having to choose between 2 acts that were performing at the exact same time in competing stages. So that was the only drawback to that, but I think overall it was a win in the change of going down to 4 stages.
Absolutely, and the RBC beanbags or whatever, I know a lot of people loved resting on those, even after the rain the first couple nights. They didn't mind that.
Yeah, little downtime.
So you didn't miss the Hard Rock stage at all this year?
No, I guess that's what it's called. I didn't really miss the stage. Honestly, there was enough music to keep me going through 10 days non-stop, stage to stage. It was you barely even noticed it. And again, some of the stuff that was there in the past, the good, if you went to see Downchild Blues Band there, you had no problems, but because they've got the power to kind of compete. But if you're going to see a guy like Billy Bragg, it's just one guy and an acoustic guitar. He's got no chance against Skrillex. So,
and actually, that happened last night, so we'll talk about that a bit later too. What about you, Matthias?
Well, just pretty quickly, I thought one of the best things was, and I don't even know if this happened in the past, but I don't recall it, but having hoses for fans on the really hot days. I thought that security, there wasn't an adversarial relationship between fans and security, like in some festivals. I thought security did, especially the guys up front. Props to them. They right by the stage there, they had the hoses going and they were making sure they were giving out water, and it really felt like they were looking out for us. And right beside them were the medics. They're ready, always keeping an eye out for people, making sure that if there was a mosh pit or crowd surfers, they were getting out safe and that they were being taken care of. So, kind of that aspect of it, I thought was very, very.
So
good.
crowd safety,
safety,
especially in that heat.
I saw a lot of people fall. I saw actually 4 or 5 people pass out right beside me, and especially in big crowds. Like 2 of them were in Black Keys when it was a really packed crowd, and they got out of there well, and they were made sure that they were taken to the tent and all that. So I thought that for me that was the biggest aspect was crowd safety and making sure that people were hydrated and were I was soaked by the end of Yukon Blonde last night because I was just getting sprayed with and we were all fine with it. It was awesome. It added to the kind of effect of kind of having a little wet party there with everybody getting sprayed by this guy who was having a great time just spraying us in the face and with the hose, and it was a lot of fun. But it was that was probably the biggest thing. Yeah,
and the security guards are wearing the steel-toed boots the whole time, 40-degree weather. I know Mike was breaking in his steel-toed boots, and then he'd still work at Babylon after. That guy put through some big hours. I know he's resting today.
Actually, even the bases for Yukon Blonde asked to get sprayed. So he was like, so he'd put out his base and he'd get, just give him a little water there.
That was funny from Alice in Chains, just to interrupt Alice in Chains. After every song, I think they mentioned how hot it was. They had no idea what was going to go on at 5 p.m. in Ottawa. They had no clue.
I don't blame them.
That was really interesting to see. What about you, Ellie? What were some of your favorite aspects?
I'm going to keep it short, but I do have to agree with Matthias. The security responsiveness, emergency responsiveness is extremely well organized at Bluesfest, so I do have to give them props for that. It's one of the best organized festival, in my opinion, with regards to that, and as well with volunteers. Year after year, we see tons of volunteers on the ground. I have to say that I'm always very happy to be able to turn to someone and they know where to send me if I have questions. So I find that that's an extremely important aspect of the festival to make sure festival goers are happy, but artists as well. We have an excellent backstage crew that takes care of all of these wonderful people as well. So I definitely have to give my congrats to Bluesfest organizers for that. They should keep that up, definitely.
Absolutely. And Eric, what about you?
I'm going to take the unpopular stance and say I'm super stoked they tried to make it a smoke-free festival this year.
Absolutely. That's another...
As a non-smoker, it was nice to not have to deal with people exhaling in my face all festival.
Yeah.
I've been to countless festivals where I just can't get up close. I just can't stand the amount of cigarette in your face all the time.
Yeah.
And people honored that too, eh?
And people were pretty good. People would, whenever you walked by the street section, there was a lot of people smoking there. Of course, there's still people smoking inside, and I also liked how security weren't kicking people out for smoking. Though they just tell them, go smoke over there. I have friends who are smokers, and they would still smoke anyways. But security handled it pretty well. So again, I guess shout out to security. But the no smoking I thought was a really cool addition.
So that's
you're dealing with the heat. The last thing you need is now a reduced amount of oxygen. So
yeah, and that's always only going to improve every single year. Just like when you initially put the smoking ban in the city, and people, it was met with resistance. It always will take off, but it's progressive change. It's going to work. All right, so now into the unpopular things we thought could have been improved. Things that we'll hope will change for next year. Aiden? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the first thing, and it was improved right after opening night, were the sound issues that a lot of people complained about through the Black Keys. Everyone was kind of expecting this, this duo to kind of roar back onto Bluesfest after they had been kind of half rained out in 2011, and they came back, and for a lot of the set, I could barely hear them. I was it was funny. I can't remember who it was that was on the side stage, but I could actually hear.
It was Mother.
Was it Mother?
No, it was Mother Night.
No, it was someone else on.
Alex Clare.
Alex Clare, exactly. It was Alex Clare on the
Clare.
river stage, and I could hear every note.
No way.
At one point, they just went down. You know, Black Keys travel with a band, obviously, but at one point they just went down to the duel. And Dan Auerbach came out with an acoustic dobro, and he's kind of plucking the strings and kind of talking. I couldn't hear a word he was saying. I couldn't hear anything he was playing. Anyway, the sound was terrible. Actually, the next day, the Bluesfest people came out and posted something on their Facebook page about it, saying that it was they kind of put the responsibility on the sound man that was traveling with the band. That it was it was kind of their responsibility to pump the sound out. Anyway, I thought it was fixed by the time they got into the real meat of the set towards the end, but unfortunately that had already kind of the stuff had already passed by that I had to review by the time my deadline hit. So I was just kind of talking about how the sound was, and it was a huge crowd as well. One of the biggest crowds came for opening night, and sort of the din of people talking and chatting, and I think people were kind of losing interest in the set.
And that's very weird for Black Keys,
just because the sound just wasn't there. So, but I mean, what was it? Zach Brown Band played the main stage the next night, and that was perfect loud. Yeah. So I think they got it fixed after the first night. But again, just a little damper when you get a band as big as the Black Keys coming through. You want to make sure that they're heard all the way to the end of the park.
Yeah. And what other things that I guess we could talk about now or whatever, the lawn chairs, especially last night. I know it's a main thing on the Ottawa Bluesfest page on Facebook, and some thoughts of how we could improve that for next year, because BB King I don't think should have been on the Claridge stage. I know you had a very the bottleneck, you couldn't move.
That was
he should have been on the main stage. I certainly find the minute they announced BB King as a headliner, my thought was that he would be headliner of the night on the main stage. So I was quite disappointed in seeing that he was tucked back to the Claridge stage, and so were many people on site. And that created a huge bottleneck problem, traffic jams in front of the entrance, which is on the War Museum side. So that was very problematic for festival goers wanting to get in, get out, and even just to get a spot to actually view the show.
They weren't even letting people in that entrance at one point because there was just too many
people
there.
They closed it off.
They had to close it off.
It was a hazard.
So I mean, for people who pay big bucks to see a legendary performer like that, and who end up having to stick to the back row or even barely see the screen, I think that's a major disappointment. So the programming there was
yeah. And then the lawn chair, there was I think it was 70% lawn chairs that filled up the first little.
It's a huge problem, and I think that we just beforehand we were just talking about a solution to that, and I mean I think we could talk all afternoon about our issues with lawn chairs, but it's also something to come up with solutions to it. And I think when you guys mentioned having a line where it's no lawn chairs, or even a time where it's like we can't allow lawn chairs here, and it's a hazard for people walking. It takes up 3 times or 4 times as much space when you get all the bags and
there's a couple ways to do it, and I agree with the way that Mark Monahan has kind of set it out for Folk Fest, which is now at Hogsback Park. But there you've got sort of the patchcord line that runs straight from the stage right back to the soundboard. On one side of that, lawn chairs. On the other side of that, standing. And that works really well there. And they've done things like that in the past at Bluesfest as well. So it's not really that foreign a concept. But then the other idea as well that has been talked about is setting a certain hour that, and especially after nightfall, so maybe around 8 o'clock, you say, look, pack up the lawn chairs or move them to a designated area where people know what to expect. Because once night falls and you have all sorts of other factors playing into things, let's say, for the Skrillex crowd, say, the certain factors for them.
It was like a whirlpool. It was like all these teenagers, bass heads getting ready for Skrillex, and
you're trying to make your way. You're trying to make your way from stage to stage as well, right? So there's a constant flow of movement of people, and if that runs into a line of lawn chairs, then it just creates a mess. And again, it's another safety concern, and I think it's something that that they should really take a serious look at.
Yeah, and especially after last night, because you don't want to leave a festival on a sour note like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And a lot of people were thinking about that, like when you had to leave, when people have to leave due to circumstances like that. That's not well run. I know Mark he's not going to be happy with that. And
it depends on the situation, though, too. I mean, they had 25,000 people there last night for the BB King show. Not necessarily all at BB King, but there were 25,000 people. They were one of the biggest crowds that they've ever had at the festival, and certainly the biggest crowd ever, I would say, for a side stage.
Yeah.
The night previous, you had Bjork, and I estimated the crowd of between 9 and 10,000, no issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it depends.
So I guess, and you could have possibly even switched the night to put Bjork on the. But that's schedule. That's a whole different thing.
I don't think you have that luxury.
We don't.
You
I
gotta
don't
go
think
with when they're available.
Bjork's theatrics would have worked on the small stage.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it wouldn't. And you don't exactly ask Bjork to
Right.
move
Well,
her
anything.
day.
You don't ask her anything. You don't ask her anything.
No,
You
if
got to
she's,
book
if she's
it.
going to play her first ever show in Ottawa, she's going to play it when she wants, where she wants, and how she wants.
Exactly
You
right.
say thank you.
And you say that
Anything else that we could have changed?
I just had one more quick thing: is
Yeah.
water stations. I don't think there were enough of those on the side.
The
of
free
black
waters.
Yeah, you know where
Yeah.
they have the hose connected
Yes.
to the station where you can just fill up your water bottle.
At the river stage, it would definitely.
They needed one there, and they needed one by the black. Yeah, they should have one by every
Per
stage,
stage.
as far as I'm concerned.
That makes
But
sense.
Yeah.
It's a hose and it's a setup. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that hard to do. And
Well, as soon as you have a bathroom section,
Yeah.
a porta potty section, you should have a one.
Why not?
You were talking as well about the mist tent.
the mist tent, yeah, like why not? I thought again, like to me, like the hoses at the Bell stage were awesome during Yukon Blonde and Death Grips and really hot shows that were really draining during the day. And why not have just a mister? I mean,
Almost
one of
every
those
festival I've
mist
ever
tents,
been to has a mister.
Yeah.
And some of your favorite moments come from being around the mister because everybody's happy, they're dancing, they can listen to music.
Yeah.
And you meet people that you've never met before, and you have a good time.
I've
met people,
at Bonnaroo, like it's just it's like a congregation area where you go and you have fun, you get soaked a little bit, and you refresh, you're pumped up,
and then you can make it to another show,
and then you can go to another show, and you're good for another few hours.
Exactly.
And it's so hot. Like Bonnaroo, I went to Coachella a couple times. It's the same thing. They have them set up everywhere, and it's pretty much just tubing that they poke holes through and run a hose through. And then it costs them very little, and they get to make so many people happy, and people will stay for the whole festival. Because like down there, you're hitting 40, 45 degree heats in California without the humidity. But you're in the sun and you're toast.
Oh yeah, no.
Right? So they have designated shade areas also where they'll just have a tent set up. I don't know if that would necessarily work at Bluesfest. We don't have the size. Coachella's like 7 or 8 stages.
Yeah.
But they have a tent, and there's just nothing going on in the tent. So you just go find shade.
Yeah. And the other thing about Coachella, which do you think could ever happen at Bluesfest, is when it reaches a certain temperature, not allow people to walk in this around the grounds with beer cups? Because I know at Coachella there's only designated areas with shade that you can drink to try to limit any kind of heat exhaustion.
I don't think that Bluesfest is a lot smaller, area-wise, than Coachella is or Bonnaroo.
That's true.
So I don't think it's as much of a concern.
But there's such a lack of shade, especially yesterday. People are really.
I don't know if that's realistic in terms of.
At some point, we have to be adults. I think.
Yes.
There's only 4 days of the festival where you have that midday sun.
That's right.
It's only on the weekend
Yeah.
days. Every other day starts at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
It is sort of a more confined area than you would find at a place like Coachella. And I know it's July, but it's Canada. It's not California, so I mean, people can handle a few days out in the heat.
Exactly right. Beer lines, what did you think of in the first couple days? They did the same usual thing with the beer lines where you're just lining up straight on and it's just absolute chaos, especially with the Claridge tent was a little further down, closer to the food truck. So it was really tight in that. And then Mark took a walk around the second day and then he decided, let's start the snake lines. And that looked like being a beer cashier, that looked like a lot more of a success. Any thoughts on that?
Well, as a patron,
once or twice,
an occasional patron, I'd say that made a huge difference because on day one you're waiting and people are just butting in and jumping and the chaos, and then you get close to the end and lines start funneling together and then lines disappear. And so I remember I was at the Black Sheep stage and there was 2 lines and I count and I'm like, there's 4 cashiers and 2 lines.
Yeah.
So I just start walking up to one of the cashiers and everyone starts following me and then we made 4 lines.
Yeah.
But that means I just cut in front of all these people waiting. But I was like, come on guys, do the math.
Yeah. So that was good.
But I really liked it when they started snaking it because you don't feel like you're getting cheated. Sure, it looks like a much more intimidating line though. When you're walking up to it, you're like, oh my god, there's so many people. But it moves fast. And I liked how they have that volunteer just pointing you, go, and pointing you off to the cashier, so you're not getting too much in the cashier's faces.
Exactly. So it was and it gave you some time instead of being in that line and going, holy crap, which way am I going to go? What am I going to do? Yeah. If you're in that kind of snake line, you can prepare the money and worry about like what am I going to get? What
and
am
you
I
can still watch the music because no one's
exactly. So that was a big change that they've never done before. So that was interesting. And also something small. They changed the beer price from $5.75 to $6 across the board. Yeah. Because that was just causing so much like people counting out change and all that, and people couldn't figure out how much things would cost. So that's good on that. And any kind of food that you tried this year that was different that you liked?
I have to say the Bluesfest pizza.
Yeah.
It was definitely a highlight. It was delicious, made especially for Bluesfest. So that
spicy
was nice.
Barbecue chicken. You got bacon,
onions, red onions, and lots of cheese.
Yeah,
no, it was delicious.
That was delicious.
And,
I loved it.
It was a definite crowd favorite.
Yeah. Georgia's?
It was Gabriel's.
Gabriel's.
Sponsor plug. I went for the Friday's organic blues burger. It was quite good.
That's always
I never had that.
Yeah, and the green papaya truck as well. The green papaya, if you want something more exotic. I
had the Jamaican patty from the Caribbean place. That was excellent. I had the mini donuts as tradition on the first night, and I did the chocolate dipped ice cream cookie thing. Had to try that.
Wow.
I have a sweet tooth.
I missed that.
So I gotta say the
I thought we were talking about dinner.
The Friday's burger was also my highlight when they Bluesfest. And caramelized onion, bacon, and the amount of toppings they have on the side. Fantastic. Very messy burger. So, but I pulled it off with it. And then I guess for something a little different, I really liked the tornado potato.
I was going to say that.
I loved it when I used to go to Casey's much younger. I haven't been there in years, and it was just it's also awesome to watch people walk around with it. Like, very aesthetically pleasing meal.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. Volunteers again, I thought were excellent again. Lineups were good. People were friendly.
Yeah.
I just have to say an experience. I can't remember the gentleman's name. I worked beer tents last year, but one of the cashiers by the bell stage. It's a busy tent, and we're doing the snake line at this point, and I was pretty tired, and not that I was grumpy or anything, but you get tired by the end of the day, and the sun's draining you, and I was ready for a beer or something, and I get there, and I'm just kind of like I'll have a tank house or whatever, and then he just starts talking to me, like having a conversation and asking me how my festival is, and really good mood, really talkative gentleman, and he really perked up my day. I gotta say,
I like that.
He really kind of not he just kind of in that time when I was a little bit drained of energy, he kind of perked me up again, and I enjoyed my conversation with him, and it was very brief, obviously, but the whole festival I've had, I have to give huge props to the volunteers. I mean, I think they do a lot of good work, and they're the backbone to this festival. I don't think that paying people to do their job would ever work, and I think that they take a lot of time out of their days to make the festival what it is, and they do a damn good job.
Like even the area lead, like the Karen and beer cashiers, like you hardly get to even watch the shows, and she's working hard, volunteering, doing all that kind of stuff. I think that's just wonderful. And as always, I'm a volunteer, and I love going to the volunteer tent to eat the dinner, and just always meeting people from different areas and seeing what their views were.
And different walks of life too. Like you see people of all ages and all kinds of people
always having a great
volunteering.
Time.
And
I had two volunteers step up huge yesterday. We were actually sitting on the hill behind the black sheep, kind of get some shade.
Yeah.
And a couple of people coming by in electric wheelchairs. One of them lost control and actually went flying down the hill and into the tree. And we couldn't. And I ran in one direction. A friend ran in another direction. A friend found volunteers and told them get first aid here as quickly as possible. And I mean, the paramedics were there real fast, which was great to see. Like just because we don't know how to contact them, we don't have radios, but they knew where to go to find a radio to get on the horn. And the guy was okay. Everything was okay. But he almost, when he was coming down the hill, there was someone in front of him, and he almost pinned that person in front of the tree too. It was quite a little hectic moment, but everything turned out fine. And I think the person didn't walk away, drove away with some scrapes on his arms, and everything was
fine. Yeah. That's good. It's a response time.
But
all right. So excellent. And now I guess that would bring us to our top 5 acts of the festival. This is going to be very interesting to hear, and reason. I guess a short reason why, and maybe like maybe a disappointment. Screw disappointments. Nobody needs to be negative the day after. Okay, top 5, and then maybe 1 or 2 that you hope to see next year.
Okay, well, I'll start with the top 5, and I don't really have any particular order to these, but just the ones that first kind of jumped out at me. So I'm going to start with Nico Case. She opened for the Dixie Chicks, and I think really opened herself up to a new audience there. To me, this is really what country music should sound like. It's dark, it's haunting, it's very beautiful music. And Nico was debuting, I think this is one of the first shows she's played, just sort of setting up her tour, and she's coming out with her 6th album. So we got to hear all those tracks, maybe for some of the first times that those songs have ever been played. But then, some great stuff. And she had a great band with her as well, John Rauhaus, if anyone knows who that is, on pedal steel. Just incredible stuff. So that was on, you know what, I can't remember what day that was. It all blends into
the first Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there you go. It was the first weekend for sure. And then I'll skip ahead to a week to the next Saturday. Actually, 2 of my top 5 shows were on the same day, and that was Bjork. Obviously, just a huge coup, I think, for Bluesfest, getting Bjork. Rarely tours. And making her Ottawa debut as well, and that was a phenomenal show. That was the end of the night, but actually I started my day on Saturday at 3 o'clock with Half Moon Run, who were here in 2011. They are a trio that's now expanded to a quartet based in Montreal. Really good sort of organic electronic, if that makes any sense, indie stuff. It makes sense when you hear it.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that definition.
Yeah, and then and it's a nice local connection as well. The front man is from Ottawa and actually moved to the Mile End area of Montreal to put the band together a few years ago. Like I wrote in my review, this is just a band that is just about to explode. They just got off a European tour with Mumford & Sons, and absolutely wowed.
And they opened up of Monsters and Men last month as well.
Yeah, that's right. And then apparently the European crowds were just wanting more of Half Moon Run and not as much of Mumford's. But anyway, and they're about to just go on another tour. They're going back to Europe 3 times between now and the fall, when they do a huge US tour, and then they're coming back in December. So they're going to be busy for a little while. Anyway, that's 1, 2, and 3. Another huge international coup that I thought Monahan pulled off this year was getting the Waterboys. Mike Scott, his band has obviously a very rabid following, and they, I don't believe, have toured in about 20 years, at least not in North America. They've been mostly keeping, he lives in Dublin and happily just kind of stays over in the UK and tours around there. But they came back again, first ever performance in Ottawa, and it was an amazing show, just completely blew people away. And I think another great pairing as well, because they were opening for Great Big Sea. The 2 bands, not at all the same sound, but with the same sort of traditions. They both, and it was neat to kind of hear, again, like I was saying in the review, to hear kind of these traditions from opposing Atlantic shores kind of meeting here at Bluesfest. So that was pretty neat. And again, the Waterboys, I think, opened themselves up to a new audience there. And the little dark horse pick I had in there was Grace Potter and the Nocturnals, who opened for Rush. I'm not a big Rush guy. I can certainly appreciate why people love them as much as they do.
Absolutely.
But for me, I was hooked on Grace Potter. She pulled out Cinnamon Girl right at the end of the set, grinding the organ, looking like Rick Wakeman with the hair flowing, and then she comes down and straps on a Gibson Flying V and just rocks it like ZZ Top. So with a voice that sounds somewhere between Robert Plant and Janis Joplin, and all the best of both. Just wonderful stuff. So that would be my top 5. And the nice thing with basically doing the festival on my own is that I got to pick all the bands I wanted to see every night, so I didn't waste any time on the lesser, the bands that I don't like. So no disappointments from me. So any disappointments would have been self-fulfilled.
Any bands you're hoping for next year?
Oh, geez. I've had one reader hammering me on Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, yeah.
Get Dave Matthews Band here.
That would be a good one, yeah.
I could see that working in the festival environment.
Absolutely.
Tom Petty has been one that has been rumored every single year when the lists are about to be. I'm not a huge Tom Petty fan, but I could see that really fitting in with the festival. I would have said Neil Young up until a few weeks ago when he was announced as the opening headliner for Folk Fest. I would have had him right at the top of the list. geez, so those, I guess I would throw those in there. Yeah, that would work. I don't know if you can bring the Beatles back to life, or maybe reunite the Grateful Dead or something.
The holograms. I'll do that. Well, that's excellent.
It's a wish list, right?
And Matthias, your top five.
Okay, well, I'll go through them a little quicker because I also want to talk about some local bands, just some honorable mentions after. For me, Death Grips. It's kind of a hardcore hip hop duo. They blew the roof off Bluesfest a few days ago, and if you're into that kind of stuff, I love hip hop. I'm more into like the kind of golden age, like late 80s, early 90s kind of stuff, Tribe Called Quest, that kind of thing. But these guys, like, one MC, one DJ, and they just rocked it. Like, the energy, like, coming off of that stage was just manic. Like, I've very rarely, I've been to a lot of shows in my life, and I haven't seen much like that. And these guys are, they're picking up steam on the blogosphere, and Pitchfork, is just raving about these guys too. And so I was really interested in seeing them, and also learning more about them, and definitely interested in their catalog. Another one, and again, this is in no order specifically. Passion Pit was huge energy at that show as well, and I kind of like to judge my shows off energy, not just the sound or the music coming off the stage, but also the type of the type of energy that it creates in the crowd. Because for me personally, the music, it kind of incites this feeling out of me as well, and then so when I see other people around me kind of being affected by the music in that way too, it really it kind of works for me as well. So Passion Pit, there was people dancing, people shouting, people singing, and it was just a party, like on the river stage there, and they were loving it. Like the energy that they were getting, they kind of came on stage walking, and they didn't seem that stoked. They were kind of okay, well, here's another show, we're not sure what to expect, and by the end of it, they were just playing for us. Like they really hit it out of the ballpark. Wu-Tang Clan, I mean, what can I say? I can't even, I don't even have to say anything. Like, they are natural, one of the best, they are the best hip-hop group in history. They are a crew of guys that just, natural stage performers. They played all the hits, they knew them, they knew how to get the crowd going. Method Man stole the show. He was one of the most energetic people I saw at Bluesfest as well. He would not allow us to stand still. They're getting the umbrellas moving, everything.
The rain
started a mosh pit.
Exactly. They made the mosh pits happen on both sides. I saw the circle pits going. And another one for me was Specials. I know Eric will agree with me on this one. Obviously a huge band in terms of ska. Had a huge influence on a lot of punk bands. And it was incredible to see them. Unfortunately, the sound was terrible. The mics were the biggest issue in this. The lead singer ended up throwing a few of his microphones on the ground.
Kicking a water
probably
bottle
throwing
at the
them at the
sound
sound man.
Kicking a water bottle at the
poor sound guy was
really
getting. Yeah, he was angry, and they actually walked off stage a little early because he actually was angry and didn't do their encore. But that's okay. It was an amazing show. And last for me was Black Keys. And again,
even with the sound,
even though their sound, I know that those guys are born performers, and like Dan Auerbach, I just have so much respect for that guy, and Patrick as well. Just to see them as a spectacle, and I had a lot of fun there. And they played some older material too off to Attack and Release, which is one of my favorite albums. Like, if I can, just really quickly go through some local honorable mentions. Steve Atomic Band. Nobody there, which really was annoying to me because they were awesome.
Yeah.
Fevers, new album coming out in August.
Even in the rain there too.
Even in the rain, people were
crazy dance party.
Dance party. We were just having fun, and they were playing a lot of new material, which is really exciting. Roberta Bondar, I thought, killed it. They had a bigger crowd there and on the main stage, and huge sound, great. And then Loon Choir was amazing too. So
I'll second that. Yeah, Loon Choir, fantastic performance.
Yeah.
Second year in a row playing the festival, and they're just about to embark on a huge tour out west as well. So we wish them all the best of luck. Great local band there.
Yeah, they're phenomenal.
Quickly for me, my top fives, I have to agree with Aiden and say Bjork. I mean, who could not agree to that? It was a fantastic performance. Her voice sounded perfect. I adored the choir, all-female choir. They were dancing, acting like a non-traditional choir, which was fantastic. I enjoyed the fact that she doesn't allow people to take videography, photography as well during the concert, to allow festival goers to really take in the performance, the full experience. Yeah. So that was great. Wu-Tang, as Matthias said, that was definitely a highlight for me. I was pleasantly surprised to see that all members except for Inspector Deck were there, so that for me was fantastic, because I've seen the and ODB, but I mean that rest in peace. It goes without saying. So the energy level was just insane. As Matthias said, they played hits from the Enter the 36 Chambers. That was just hit after hit. People were loving it, throwing their Wu signs up. I had a blast, so thank you, Wu-Tang. Yeah. Amadou and Mariam, perhaps not many people necessarily know them. They're a duo from Mali, West Africa. They're folk world blues music. What's particular about them is that they're blind. Both of them met at a music conference, didn't know each other, fell in love, and they now perform together. They have great stage presence. Their music is beautiful. They sing in French, English, and their dialect. The set was simply adorable. They're cute, they're good, and I definitely recommend it to everyone. So I'm very happy that they were on the lineup this year. A Tribe Called Red, Ottawa's own. They really brought the show to the festival. There was a huge crowd for them. I was really happy to see that local people came out, but also people who hadn't heard of them. They had everyone dancing on their feet. It was just a grand old time. Finally, for me, Diamond Rings. Was also a definite highlight for this year's festival. He's from Toronto. He's performed in Ottawa several times in the past, but it was my first time catching him. He has great on-stage presence and energy. He knows how to get the crowd moving. And he performed mostly tracks from his Free Dimensional, his latest album. And so that's what got me to discover him, and I really, really enjoyed his set. Wonderful. For next year, I'd love to see Frank Ocean, who's performing this year at Osheaga in Montreal. Maybe some local natives. They're an American indie rock group. That would be nice. Azalea Banks. I mean, again, it's a wish list, but we'll see. We're always open to the musical variety. And so favorite local acts, I would have to say hands down A Tribe Called Red. They really did it for me. Thanks.
Awesome. Eric, quickly yours. Your top fives.
My top five, so a lot of them have already been mentioned, so I won't go too much over them, but my experience, as soon as I saw the specials were announced for Bluesfest, I was like, I'm going, I don't need to see anything else. If I see the specials, my life is made, kind of thing. They're one of the last bands on my bucket list because I'm very spoiled. And I've seen most of my bucket list, but like the innovators of British two-tone ska changed my entire outlook on music when my dad gave me the specials. So that was incredible, despite the sound and the ridiculously angry British lead singer. Both guitarists were having a blast. Everyone else in the band was enjoying it. And it's not so much that they walked off stage because they didn't do their encore. They ran out of time. They just didn't leave for an encore, so they stopped. They wanted to come out for an encore, and then their stage guy came on and said, we can't do an encore because the next band starts in 2 minutes. So they did it great. Waterboys as well, another one of those bands my dad gave me at a very young age to show me that style of music. And that fiddler is absolutely incredible. Steve Wickham's got to be one of the better men I've ever seen on a fiddle. And watching him duel the guitar player, going fiddle to guitar duels while they're wearing these dark masks, was just a really cool experience.
I really missed that.
So yeah, those two are the ones who stole the show from me, but that's also the nostalgia effect. Yeah. Teenage punk rocker, we loved seeing the Flogging Molly. I've seen them a bajillion times, but they always put on a great show. Yeah. Super entertaining. The surprise for me is going to see a band that I'd never ever heard of and was blown away with Killer Mike, rapping on the River stage. The guy is a massive man, but he even went out and said, usually I don't dance, but you guys have so much energy, you even got my legs moving today. And he even came in the crowd. He got in the crowd and laid down some rhymes with us in the crowd. Just incredible. I'm a big supporter of rap that's not all about, hoes and Cadillacs and drugs. Yeah. This guy's really political. He's got songs about how Reagan ruined the States. He's a really angry rapper, but then when he's talking, he's really nice. So really enjoyed him. Frank Turner. Something about seeing a British singer-songwriter in the pouring rain just felt like I was in London. I got traveled over there. Definitely one of my favorite modern songwriters. I think he's fantastic.
Love when he played the Weaker Thens there.
Yeah, and then when he covered the Weaker Thens
with the tattoo, right?
With the tattoo that he just freshly got of a cat virtute. So very cool. Honorable mention for a local. I'm a huge fan of Her Harbor.
Yeah.
And I've always missed her with a full band. I've always only seen her with one solo or another person. She had a 5-piece inside the Barney Danson Theater, which had the best sound of anything Bluesfest could offer because it's a theater as opposed to this outdoor stage. So that was really really cool because that haunting voice and that auto harp.
I really want to see her live.
Is really interesting combination. So.
And what about one band that you want to see next year?
Well, one band I would have said would have been the Replacements because they just reunited, but I'm going to Toronto to see them at Riot Fest. So if they can, they'll probably break up and get back together maybe 17 times by the time August 24th happens when I see them. But if they're still together, that'd be cool. Love to see Bright Eyes. I know they played Folk Fest a couple of years ago, but
see them again.
Always a big fan.
They were awesome.
Connor was here last year, wasn't
he? Yeah, but I don't like him as Connor. When
Okay.
I've seen him as Connor, he's usually too out there for me, talking about space and galaxy and going on these rants between songs.
I did forget about one on the wish list that would have been great for this year. A buddy of mine just emailed me that he's going on a road trip to Toronto to see My Morning Jacket, Wilco, and Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And that would have been pretty spectacular.
So all three would have been excellent.
Hey, Wilco would be great outdoors. I've never been able to see them outdoors yet. So.
Yeah. I saw them, I think, the last year that Bluesfest was at City Hall. It was a beauty.
Maybe we could convince them to do an all-request show like they just did a while ago. I'd be down for seeing a little bit of Get Lucky again done by them.
There you go. So I'm going to quickly go through mine. I like Jimmy Eat World. I thought they were pretty cool to open up the festival. They're a lot of fun. I've seen them before. This still came out with great energy. Cat Empire, who I've never seen live. I've always wanted to see Cat Empire live. I thought that was a great performance. A lot of dancing at the river stage. I've never seen Alice in Chains live, and the sound there was just exactly captured what I wanted Alice in Chains to sound like.
Isn't it weird how similar? What's his name? The new
William Duval.
Yeah,
Duval. How
awesome.
Much he has filled in that role of Lane Staley.
He sounds exactly like him. It was actually freaky.
It's scary. You do this?
Yeah.
No idea.
Cover your eyes.
Loved it. Number 2, I had A Tribe Called Red. I thought on the Saturday night with both Weezer and Passion Pit and the other Dan Deacon, I thought, wow, Tribe Called Red might not be too big. It was absolutely packed. There was people wearing weird things. It was great. Everybody dancing. They had the little kids on stage dancing.
Yeah,
I think they're kids.
Their daughters. Yeah.
Their daughters. That was a lot of fun. Number 1 blew my mind, and the reason why this Blues Fest was one of the best ever. Joe Robinson. That kid is absolutely incredible. Did anyone here see it?
I didn't see it. I've seen videos, but I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I sent you that video. He changed my world. 22-year-old guitar player from Australia who's going to absolutely blow music away in the coming years. Honorable mentions, J.W. Jones I thought was excellent yesterday during the day. I thought that was so much fun. I think he got a great crowd for that. Bands I'd want to see next year, Gabriela y Rodrigo. I'd love to see at Tom Petty and Pearl Jam. That's another one that's a perennial perennial one that you're always going to hear.
In the festival circuit.
Dave Matthews Band, everything like that. So anything else anybody wants to say before we go to Folk Fest? Or
one thing I wanted to kind of look ahead to that, but also the number 20 I mentioned in my column today in today's paper really kind of featured in this year. It was the 20th year, but not the 20th anniversary. They're celebrating the 20th anniversary next year because they started in '94, and so this was the 20th edition, but not the 20th anniversary. But also the number 20 kind of featured in with some of the bands that were also celebrating that anniversary. Great Big Sea were doing their XX tour. Weezer as well, 20 years as a band, Wu-Tang, Bjork, 20 years since debut came out, the Waterboys, 20 years since their last major North American tour for the Dream Harder album, which was also released in '93. So the year 20, I thought it was nicely done, where there was a bunch of bands that were kind of significant to that. And looking ahead to next year, when they are going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary, just had a little bit of insider information that I can certainly share with you that next year they're planning, since all three of Bluesfest and Folk Fest and the Chamber Music Fest, 2 of those 3 are now under Mark Monahan's guidance. All three of those started in 1994. Next year they are going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary, and insiders have only said really that they're planning something special, and perhaps between all three festivals. So that might be something to watch out for.
That'll be a lot of fun. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this.
Thank you for having us.
I think it'll be excellent so people can, instead of just reading you guys all the time, they can get to know you a little bit more. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
As I just try to feature everything in Ottawa and get people excited for this awesome city.
Yes.
Great stuff.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Listen to the rest of the Lunch Out Loud Ottawa's podcast. We have a great guest on this week. And have a great day. Bye-bye.